Hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global, and I invite you to kick off your heels, get comfortable, and be ready to receive the golden nuggets that are shared as you listen in to candid conversations I have with fascinating women from around the globe. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, humanitarians, athletes, and a whole lot of regular people. They will keep you riveted as they let their guard down and open up on aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure success, and what they have learned along the way. My intent is that our conversations will inspire you to embrace opportunities and possibilities beyond the limits of your imagination, because I know that this is where we reclaim our power. I want you to reclaim your power, your strength and vulnerability, to stand in your truth and propel yourself towards the life that you dream to live. Hello, welcome listeners to Women's Biz Podcast. It's Annie Gibbins here, and I'm so thrilled to have you joining us today. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting a true force of inspiration in the realm of health and wellness. Her name is Cathy Nesbitt, and she's not only an advocate, but a trailblazer, the founder of Cathy's Crawly Composters, Cathy's Sprouters, and Cathy's Laughter Club. Her dedication to creating a sustainable life has earned her multiple awards as an environmental innovator. I think we need to be talking more about the environment. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Cathy's impact extends beyond her accolades. She's also a certified laughter yoga teacher, runs motivational workshops, and urges us all to embrace a more sustainable and fulfilling lifestyle. Yes, welcome to the program, Cathy. I'm looking forward to sharing with you today.
Thank you, Annie. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you here. Now let's dive into it. You have been a pioneer in environmental innovation. You founded, as I said, Cathy's Crawly Composters, and it was back in 2002, I believe. So you've been doing this for a long time. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your journey into worm composting and what inspired you to bring those little worms into people's homes?
Yeah, so I'm located in Canada, just north of Toronto, largest city in the country, 6 million people in the Greater Toronto area. And in 2002, the landfill for Toronto area closed. It filled up. And although Canada's a pretty large country, we couldn't find a place to site a new landfill. And we started to export our garbage to the United States. 1,000 trucks a week. Wow. And I had a solution. I had a solution for the wet waste, for the organic matter in the paper scraps. And I, without business acumen, I set forth knowing I had an idea that was a great idea, a solution for one of the biggest problems in the world, food waste. And I set forth and started my business. And I didn't realize that people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. And not everybody wants worms in the house. So that's kind of was how I started with the idea of worms in the house for composting.
I agree with that. Most people would go, worms in the house? Ew. This is sounding such a bizarre concept. But once you start getting into it, it's not so weird considering all the other things that we have living in us, around us. 1,000 trucks a month of garbage.
No, 1,000 trucks a week.
A week. Oh my gosh. I feel like they're just pouring up and down that highway of yours.
Right.
That's insane. It's absolutely insane. So if we can do anything to reduce that, just chucking garbage into landfill, absolutely. It should be a number one priority. So worm composting, though, does sound a little bit of an unusual way to go about it. You'd think it's going to be some big corporate way of trying to reduce that waste. And you've gone straight to the little organic, way of, bringing worms into the home. So explain what that is, and more importantly, why someone could consider incorporating worms into their householding composting routine. How will that work?
So really it's for really anybody, but my idea was for people that live in apartments, townhouses without space to do outdoor composting. So this is done inside. You need a container. any kind of rubber, a tote, the worms require a carbon nitrogen mix. So the carbon is your shredded paper, your brown, so brown leaves, cardboard box, all kinds of things you can use for your bedding. And the nitrogen is your food scraps, coffee, tea, all your food scraps. Is the nitrogen. The worms require both. They stay in the container, so you don't have to worry. They're not free range worms. And they convert the food scraps and paper into black gold, into nature's finest fertilizer. And I didn't realize that at the beginning when I started my business. I started as a waste management tool. I didn't realize that people wanted the black gold. They might not have wanted worms in the house, but they wanted the end product. So yeah. I was flooded by gardeners wanting to do vermicomposting.
I bet, because that's right. When you actually get the final product, not only have you helped the landfill issue, but you've actually now got this perfect product to then, I'm imagining, put back into your own gardens and make your own little sanctuary look better and better. So from a horticultural business perspective, they're wanting more and more beautifully enriched soils, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. In North America, we've destroyed the soil. We've done acres and acres of monocropping, corn, wheat, soy, and that's not now how nature intended. We need biodiversity. If we have monocropping, we need to add a lot of chemicals so that the crops will grow. And with the added chemicals, then the bugs become more resistant, just like with our antibiotics. The more antibiotics that we take, the more we need to take because the bugs become more resistant. So same in agriculture. And this is a way that we can fix the damage that we've done to our soil.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can you imagine any family anywhere in the world not having a compost of some kind? Like, does that just blow your mind that they wouldn't be thinking in this way?
Yes. And again, back to North America, we're late adopters here. So there is a lot of people that still have not heard of the concept of composting. So if you haven't heard of composting, worm composting is really far away.
Because being in Australia, I'm thinking we've always had a little compost in the backyard that we just, chuck out all our excess matter. And I would think it's automatic, but it's amazing what you don't appreciate that goes global, that everyone wouldn't be thinking about this. And when you actually start looking at how much waste we have, it does just blow my mind, and I'm sure yours. Let's change tact again then onto the whole concept of laughter yoga, and then we'll go, how do they tie together? Like, I just love people who get into this because you just, it's just such a fascinating area. And I know you were even appointed a laughter ambassador by Dr. Madan Kataria. So it's like, wow, amazing. Can you therefore share with us, well, what is laughter yoga and how does that potentially benefit your health?
Oh, beautiful. Laughter yoga is not about fancy pants or poses. It's intentional laughter exercises. So it's not doing yoga and laughing. It's laughing as an exercise. The yoga part is the deep diaphragmatic breathing and the practice of the laughter. So it started in 1995 by Dr. Kataria. He's a medical doctor and his goal is world peace. Can you imagine what a great goal? And I think that laughter yoga might have been started in 95 so that we could be ready for 2020 when the world shut down. Prior to 2020, there was very few opportunities to laugh online. And we know we all shut down and we had to, go take to different technologies online. Thank goodness we had this way to stay connected during that challenging period. And so there are over 120 countries now laughing full on. North America is a late adopter, so yoga's just arriving. Laughter yoga is still in the ocean. So how does it help your health? Many ways. We say laughing for no reason, but there are so many health benefits to laughing. The brain requires 25% more oxygen than the rest of the body as an operating principle. It's a machine, the answering machine. And when we go into stress, we're not breathing properly. We've gone into fight, flight, or freeze. So blood, lymph, oxygen leaves our brain so that we can escape whatever's causing us stress. I know that's not how it works. If only we could just run away from it. Wouldn't that be great? So laughter, when we're laughing, we're exhaling, ha, ha, ha. In order to continue laughing, we need to take a nice deep breath in, which oxygenates our beautiful brain, and we can come up with more creative solutions. In addition to the oxygen, when we're laughing, we're secreting the love drugs, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, versus cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. You know, we live now in a perpetual state of stress. So our body is constantly, we're fighting against ourselves. It's really hard to heal when we're in sympathetic mode. We have two nervous systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic. It's in parasympathetic that we rest and digest. And I recently heard that our body uses 80 to 90% of our energy every day digesting. So if we're in stress, we're not digesting properly. So although we're eating, a lot of people stress eat, it's just passing through. Our body's not getting what it needs from the food that we're taking in when we're stressed.
That is so true. That is so true. We need all of our energy to be directed in the right places, and I think it's a fascinating area to explore. So those of our listeners who've never actually looked at what is laughter therapy, oh my goodness, it's a whole other world. And and I must admit, I as a person who just laughs regularly, often people often say to me, "I want your energy. I want what you're on." And I'm kind of like, "Oh, you've just got to be actually happier. You've got to change your perspective because it does have natural endorphins for sure." So how do you then connect worms, your love of worms, with laughter therapy? How does that actually gel?
Love it. Thank you. So it is the 21st anniversary of my worm business. 2012, I wasn't paying attention, Annie. They say in business to listen to your customers. What do they want? I wasn't listening because they didn't want worms in the house. And I thought, no, you need this. I was on purpose. You need to have the worms. It's important. So I wasn't really listening when they said, ew, worms in the house. I would go on to the next person, like, okay, next. In 2012, one more person said, ew, worms in the house. And I felt it. Oh my gosh, I questioned everything. I just thought, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make this happen if people still haven't heard about what I'm doing. Because I came up with an expression, without awareness, action is impossible. And because if you don't know that you can have worms in your house for composting your food scraps, you're not doing it. Bad for business. So in 2012, when I was, I just thought, okay, maybe I should just get a job. Oh, who would have me? Entrepreneurs are broken. You can't hire an entrepreneur. Don't tell me what to do. The very next day, I was introduced to laughter yoga at the very place that I wrote my business plan. It's, there's no mistakes. There's no coincidence, everything on purpose in the perfect time, I believe. So there I was, the very place I wrote my business plan, and the speaker did a 5-minute introduction to laughter yoga. And I don't even do regular yoga. And I'm sure it's a fine thing. I jumped right to the fun yoga. So I thought, wow, laughter yoga, what's that? I love to laugh. And that same week at a networking event, hundreds of people, 2012, the very first woman I met was a laughter yoga teacher. And I said to her, oh, laughter yoga is mainstream, right? I heard of it twice in 1 week. And she said, no, it isn't. I think she got offended. And that night we traveled around together. Everybody we met, I said, have you heard of laughter yoga? Have you? Nobody had. And so I started to attend her class. And then I thought, I love this. And I got trained. It changed my life. It saved my worm business because rather than doff my mission, I jumped in more full on because I realized when people said, ooh, they weren't saying, ooh, Cathy, you're gross or something about me. They were saying, ooh, about my offering. They didn't like what I had. So that was on them. And I realized the laughter just has helped me to become more resilient and just to stay on my path more, just to not take it personally when people were dissing my worms.
Now, over the years, you've faced many challenges, right? We all do as entrepreneurs, absolutely. But selling worms, you're not going to have repeat customers. You're going to get someone, you're going to then go through your business model and teach them, all about composting and how you want to have, get these worms into your homes and so forth. But then you're going to get a challenge that then those people are going to be happily doing that. You're going to then have difficulty getting repeat customers. And you're also obviously tackling those people's perceived, perceptions about worms even to start, as you've been sharing. So how have you been navigating those challenges, and what lessons have you learned that you'd be able to share with others about, having a bit of a challenging business model, but you can still, work around that and then become really be successful despite the challenges?
Well, first of all, when I started my business, I would have a table wherever I could have a setup. And I realized that people were afraid of worms. And not that they were going to harm them, just that they were traumatized as a child, maybe in the schoolyard, maybe by a sibling after a rainy day, maybe a fishing incident where the green goo is coming out of the worm. Something happened, and so they got traumatized. If you were traumatized as a child by something, you're not looking to that as an adult as a solution. Like, oh, I'm afraid of worms. Maybe I'll have them in my house. So I realized early on that I needed to do something. And as an entrepreneur, I pivoted. Instead of trying to sell the worms, I took on school workshops. So I started to do education to create the market. I needed to raise awareness about the benefit of doing this. So school workshops. And I thought, okay, now I just have to wait 20 years till they have buying power. Yay, I made it. So that was one of the challenges, was that people didn't know. And then, yes, the worms breed more than rabbits. They're maybe not cute and cuddly, depending who you ask. And so without repeat customers, I needed to keep on kind of fishing for more customers. The lesson here is, if you're going to start a worm business, don't sell the worms. They're the workers. Sell the compost, because the compost needs to be applied several times during a growing season. And so it's something that people need over and over. And as we've discussed, people might not want to have the worms in the house or do the worm part. They just want the final product, the black gold.
That is such good information to share, because often we're focusing on the wrong part of our business, right? So here you were, worms, and that's right. That's going to be really limited. Whereas you're actually going, you know what, everyone wants the result. And that is a great tip for all of our listeners, listening in on, this is Business Tips 101, which says, you're doing what you're doing, but you're actually, if you're in business, you're being the answer to someone's problem, right? So you're actually focusing on the problem. The problem is, for you in this scenario, is to reduce waste and also to give yourself a product that you can even then use. So it's a win-win. Right. So you're actually selling that solution rather than, the worms to start are actually one way of starting, but then you've actually got an on sell. You've got a potential, that's right. If you even want more of that, you can get more of that product. And then it then goes to a whole different market. I'd love you to share then. So once you actually go past the mums and dads who are doing that environmental factor, you then suddenly opened yourself up to a market that is, nurseries and other businesses that actually goes, you know what, our clients will pay big money for that raw ingredient, that gold dirt, as you call it.
Right. And the wet waste, the food waste, smells. I mean, it rots, it causes trouble, it attracts rodents, fruit flies. It's a problem. So in addition to tackling the individual household, I took on corporations, because they're paying a lot of money to get rid of that stuff. So imagine if they could have a worm bin right in the workplace to manage their scraps. Then they need someone to manage the worms, but a new job that's under the other box of your job description. P.S. You'll be the worm tender too. So it's really an incredible. And when I think about the worms, there's such an incredible metaphor. They've been sitting under our feet literally for millions of years, waiting to help us with this global crisis, which is our wet waste, our garbage. And now we've, in North America at least, we've destroyed the soil. So they're creating this. I think that the worms are the original alchemists. They convert garbage into black gold. So they convert something that we, throw away into something that we want to keep.
Mm. And this is something that all of our traditional cultures in, our various countries, I'm in Australia and we have Indigenous population, and you're in Canada, pretty much every country would have that most of those cultures would say we've always known about worms.
And composting and giving back to the earth and taking only what you need. Somehow, I don't know what's happened where we would just take and take and take, and we're not returning to the earth. And so we seem to be, I mean, without getting political, it seems like we now are in a situation. I mean, there's still people that are denying that we're having an impact. And because if we admit that we're having an impact, that means we have to change something. Yes. And change, right, is uncomfortable.
Mm. I think what is wonderful is that we can start with a new generation. So while many of us, have lost our way and we haven't actually seen that as a priority, I know now I'm a nana, and I pop into in infant school again with my granddaughter, my first granddaughter, and there in the schoolyard is a beautiful little nursery, and there's they grow their own vegetables, and they've got a composting section and things like that. So to this generation, it's kind of like that will then become the norm, like it was for me, but might have been just because of my parents, or it might have been just for the area that I'm in. You don't know you're different until suddenly you realize that other people don't do this. And I think the fact that you've struck onto something, and then you've realized it's not just one market. If we can then start with that with future generations realizing that this is actually quite normal, then those kids will grow up and automatically look after the environment a lot more, value the earth and what we take from it and put back into it. And then also, I love your conversations about corporate. Yeah, who would get the worm composting job in a corporate environment? But you know what? It can be a value for some of those businesses that's right. All of that. If you're looking at some pretty large organizations, they're going to have a lot of waste per day from all of their staff. So it's actually one of their, sustainable ticks that they get for their business. And people will work, people, particularly the Gen Zs, will work for companies that prioritize, looking after the planet, and this is definitely part of that. Such a great conversation. So those of our listeners who are wanting to go, you know what, I'm interested in this whole idea of worms or composting, or I'm interested in, I've got my own business that I had thought was just a bit of a passion rather than, a hobby rather than potentially business. What advice do you have for them to actually, go for it, because it's worth it, because, every little niche area can become its own business?
Absolutely. Yes. I would say write down all the things that you like doing, and then all the things you don't like to do, and you can farm those out eventually. Make sure that you ask for help. I think as women, as entrepreneurs, we think we got it. We can do it all. We got it. We don't need, no, I'm good. I don't need any help. But when we ask, because people don't know that we need help until we do ask. And I do have another favorite expression, and it is, it's no for sure unless you ask. And I mean, it's obvious, but an example there, I chose media as my marketing strategy, and somebody connected me with a news program, 6 a.m., a morning program in another town. So I would have had to leave my house, like 5 a.m. or something to get there, going through, rush hour traffic, all of that. And so I thought, I really want to go be on that news program, but I don't really want to drive there. And somebody said, why don't you ask them if they have a car? And I got all in my head, like, oh, why me? Like, who am I? I'm nobody. So when they called the day before to confirm the appointment, I was thinking, the traffic, I don't want to drive at that hour. And so I'm sure I sounded like a teenager going through puberty when I asked them, hey, you don't happen to have a car available, do you? And she said, let me check. She put me on hold, and I was like, oh my God, she's going to check. She came back and she said, the car's available. Yes, they'll be there at 4:30 to come and pick you up. And So it's no for sure unless you ask. If I hadn't asked, I would have been stuck in traffic. And I have many of those stories where if you don't ask, then it's no.
I think that's a great way to finish up our conversation, is know for sure unless you ask. And that's so true. So one of our biggest reasons for not pushing forward is because we actually are our own handbrake, right? We sort of pull back and go, that's not going to be possible because, and you give yourself all these reasons, which most of them are not true. If you don't ask, how will you know? And the amount of times that you do ask, and on the other side, people go, oh, sure, that's not a problem, or I could see if I can make it possible. Or maybe they will say no just that time, but no one time doesn't mean no every time, or they might meet you halfway at the table. It's incredible the opportunities you have once you start just releasing yourself a little bit to actually just go with the flow, step into that next sort of opportunity and say, well, I'll just ask anyway. And I think women particularly really need to hear this message today that, that's right, ladies, you're going to, we are our biggest saboteurs, if you like. It's like, oh, well, I won't bother anyone, or they'll probably say no anyway, or whatever. It's like, no, just ask anyway and see where the opportunity is. And in many circumstances, even if it's not that person who can help you, they'll then sort of see if they can find someone else. I find that day in, day out on LinkedIn, particularly. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and I'll go, to someone and say, can you help me? For example, I've just come back from the US. Some will know, and I've just been really fortunate to win a few awards. And so it's like, wow, and then I'll go to some people, go, I can try and get my own media. But then I immediately went, oh, well, who do I know who could help me get some more media? And neither that person. So I have to ask, which is not going to happen if I don't ask, right? Exactly what you just said, Cathy. And then if they can help me, great. If they can't, then another man I met, he went and said, no, but this lady, email this lady, she'll be able to help you. And so then the conversations keep going. And so I love what you shared there, in any context to our listeners, whatever business you're in, always just bravely think, if I've got an idea or I've got an opportunity that would suit me, would add value to where I'm at this time, and hopefully will then have that on-flow of having incredible value to others, because that's why we do things, then just ask, right? It just time and time again will come back as a blessing and also a growth opportunity. I bet you grew so much by just getting yourself comfortable with asking, Cathy.
Yeah, absolutely. And about us being our best saboteurs, I love that word. Sometimes we'll get an idea and it's just like we get all fired up. Wow, I'm going to do this thing. If we don't take action, either writing it down or some kind of action towards that thing, then we may just get it, talk ourselves out of, oh, I remember last time, and oh, I don't have time for that right now, even though it fired us up. And I say, that if it's a business idea, was given to 6 people around the world. And if you don't do something, one of those people will do it. And then, 6 months from now, you'll be like, oh, that was my idea. That's right, because they took action. So action is required, right? Knowledge is power. Action is required. It's only information. Knowledge is only information without action.
Exactly. Oh, that is a brilliant little gem for people to ponder on today, because I have so many people who get frustrated. They come to me and go, Annie, I know I'm better than this other person. My business is better than their business. Why are they getting so many opportunities? Why are they positioned here? And once we start drilling down, I go, well, they probably asked more. They probably positioned themselves. They were expectant of success. They were not going to take no for an answer. If you're sitting there watching and waiting for the perfect time, you're going to be waiting a very long time, and while you think you're staying forward, you're actually moving backwards because the rest of the market is going forwards. So you're not even stable. Even if you think you're stabilizing, you're sliding backwards. So this bit of information today for our listeners is so valuable. Make sure that you don't get stuck on that mindset of, well, I'll just kind of wait for the perfect time or wait till it's a highly likely guarantee. I want you to shift in that other way. Be like Cathy says, and actually just start asking for assistance, asking for help. Use that knowledge, but knowledge is power once you act. So it's about the action. And I thank you so much for being on the program today, Cathy. It's been really fun talking about worms. I'm going to go and reintroduce myself to my little worms in the garden now, make sure that they're all happy and healthy.
Don't talk too loud. They don't like noise.
Oh, they don't like noise. Oh, that's going to be a problem. Maybe that's why they're always hiding from me. I'm way too noisy. But I think it's been a really great, refreshing conversation to have on Women's Biz podcast today. So all of the rest of you, if you are not composting or composting, as Cathy calls it in her part of the world, get into it. Start opening up your eyes to the opportunities that you can do, the little things in the planet. And particularly from a business point, I want you to pick up those tips that we've been sharing today, which is a lot about, whatever area of business you're in, make it your niche, go all in for it, and see where the business opportunities can lie. And sometimes they lie a little bit different to the side, left or right, up or down to what you initially start with, because then the true business opportunities really eventuate. So for those of you who are wanting to be on Women's Biz podcast, you just pop over to womensbizglobal.com/podcast and you can apply to be on the show. I would love to have the breadth of women represented in this program because it's just so fascinating seeing what women around the globe are doing. We can be in any area, any niche. We're all picking up tips and tricks from each other, and it's just so valuable having you here. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cathy.
Thank you, Annie. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. And if you would like to fast track your future success, hop on over to womensbizglobal.com. Find out about all things women's biz, and most importantly, take the opportunity to have a free trial of Women's Biz Tribe. I look forward to seeing you online very soon. Until next episode, bye for now.